We live. Guess who's back? As always, I'm gonna give him a couple seconds to jump on. How we doing today, Jay? You good? Yeah. Good. Yeah, word. I seen you doing your thing. Yeah, I see you doing your thing. I'm sore.
Being sore, then going there this morning.
Right.
Just wipe all it out.
Yeah, that's important. I think we reaching a new level with that part. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to give you a couple seconds to get on. You know what it is. It's Tuesday at 7:00. I'm blessed. We're blessed. This is episode number 17 or 18. I really don't know, but I do know ever since the first week of January, we made the decision to shed light and give flowers to the people that created and maintain this hip hop culture that we knew, right? So we really just have been doing this through our own Rolodex. Young people don't know what a Rolodex is. Through our phone, our contact list, right? We've been doing this through our contact list, right? Touching the people that we know, getting at the people that know the people that we know. And it's really been a success. So I'm very blessed. This is, like I said, number 17 or 18. Y'all do the math. My sister Kai, she decided to let me rock this week. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Kai. The man sitting on the left of me, I don't even remember when the first time we met. I'll be honest with you. I tried to think about when we first met. I don't remember that. But what I do remember that there was a period, like we were just talking, between like 2008 and like 2012, 2013, where everything you was touching was hitting. And I was doing my thing and you was doing your thing. And at times we connected. I moved in 2012 from Brooklyn down to Maryland. You did my going away party. To this day, it's probably the highest grossing event at Rustic ever, right? You was killing the Red Rooster scene. You was killing the Moe's scene. This is the new Moe's and the old Moe's, right?
Right.
Because people don't know that there was an old Moe's.
Right.
And, you know, so me and this brother have kind of been allies in the culture for some time. But the thing about it is, it took me years to understand who he actually was, right? So you connect with somebody on your level, you do the things that you do, and then one day you realize that the man that you've been calling friend, that you've been texting, that is there when you need him, has actually been a hip-hop legend the whole time. We're going to get into it. This is going to be very interesting. I say that every week. I'm right every week. It's always a very interesting conversation. We're going to get started. I want to introduce to some. I want to present to others my brother, DJ HARD HITTIN HARRY.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
It was good, y'all. I was feeling that, the whole thing. Listen.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
I just want to say that
yes,
you've been so celebrated by the Haitian community, by the Haitian American community. And all of it is valid. Like you just did something. I saw on IG. What was that?
Yeah.
With Farrah Lewis was there.
Yeah,
Shout to Farrah.
That was Haitian Flag Day this past Thursday.
Uh-huh.
I was presented with a surprise proclamation by council members Chiose. It was by Chiose, but co-signed by council member Farrah Lewis,
right?
Council member Rita Joseph, and council member Mercedes Narcisse.
Right.
And it was a surprise. I had no idea. I was booked by Arlene to DJ the Haitian Flag Day event at the Brooklyn Children's Museum. And I hosted it as well. I was introducing, the program of events, the run-up show.
Right.
And then I was the very last, they were giving out proclamations. So I was the very last proclamation. And I had no idea.
That was amazing.
When Councilmember Chiose started reading my bio, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, he's talking about me. I was like, oh my God. And so I almost cried, you know what I mean? Because he just went in.
And she is a good dude. And shout to Chiose,
yes,
his mother, Kim Van,
his dad,
rest in peace, Reggie,
Osei, Combat Jack,
right, you know what I'm saying?
A legend.
Yeah, good stock. The brother is a genius.
Yes.
He's in city council doing great things, and we support him.
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So he, I'm giving him accolades. Like in the very beginning, like when I introduced him, I knew his background as the son of Reginald Osei, a podcast legend. You know what I'm saying? So I'm giving him his flowers, and I'm like, I know of your dad, so I kind of, for those that didn't know his background, and that was my introduction for him. And so little did I know that he would be presenting me with a proclamation, and it was just amazing. And I'm just thankful and I'm grateful. Thank you, Arlene, once again.
Yeah, shout out to
Arlene made
She's
that happen.
person,
and I appreciate that.
So let's start at the very beginning, because again, when I read your bio, I didn't realize that you were actually born in Port-au-Prince.
Yes.
And then you moved to Montreal.
No, I moved to Brooklyn.
Oh, you moved to Brooklyn.
I moved to Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, I came to
so
Brooklyn.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was born in Port-au-Prince, and I moved to Brooklyn at 3 years old. And I live right on Eastern Parkway.
Eastern where?
Eastern, down there by the funeral home, down there by the park.
By Lincoln Terrace Park, I think
right.
It's called, right.
Yeah, it's all the way down, all the way down to the end. There's a funeral home.
Right.
And that's where I lived, and I lived there for a couple of years. Then I moved to East 96th Street. I moved to East 96th Street, and I lived there for a while. And then my parents split up. My parents split up, and then we moved to Canada. Moved to Montreal, Canada, and lived in Canada for 4 years. I was in Canada during the 70s. I came to Canada in 1976. I'll never forget it. It was the Montreal Olympics.
Ooh, okay.
Now imagine being in a city where the Olympics is being held as a youth.
Right.
And that, I would just never forget that. That was like, I came to Canada during an Olympic year, and Nadia Comaneci.
Right. That's back then. Right.
Back then in the 70s. And that was an amazing
That's
experience.
the Miracle on the Ice year, I think. Like that was a big Olympic.
That was a big year. It was Andre the Giant.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just like a big year that year. And for me to be in Montreal, during the Olympics, for Montreal to be an Olympic city was something that I'll just never forget. So that was my introduction to Montreal. And lived in Montreal for about 4 years, went to school, went to grade school there. And then from there, I came to Jersey. And that was an experience because I came to Brick City. I came to Newark, New Jersey.
Right.
And
Montreal is beautiful. I've seen Montreal. And Newark in the 80s, not so much.
Still the 70s. Still the 70s.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I was a youth. And it was hard. It was hard, man. Projects and it was crazy. I lived with my uncle. We came to my uncle's crib in Velsburg. And Isabella Avenue, shout out to Isabella Avenue. And just came up, went to grade school there. I went to Catholic school. At first I went to, when I got there, I went to Alexander Street School. 5th grade, and then 6th grade, I went to Catholic school. I went to Sacred Heart Catholic School. So I went to Catholic school from 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And then just living in Newark, man, it was just an amazing experience. It was just like, you're young, man. You're young, and you're just skateboarding and just doing all the things that you do as a youth. You know what I mean? Not really, caring about anything, but I was a product of a divorce, what I mean? My parents had split up. So it was more or less like, just leaning on my mom, and my mom was just there, just being a great energy to me and my brother. I have a younger brother. So
I want to discuss something because you are Haitian. You were born in Haiti, French, Creole speaking. Was in Brooklyn for a minute, but then went to Montreal, French speaking.
French.
When you got to Newark, how was your English? How was your ability to kind of like mesh with that community? Because Montreal, again, is like very opposite Newark, right?
Very.
And we are the product of our parents and of our environment.
Right.
And you have a very unique beginning of your environment.
Yeah.
Right? Like I tell people all the time, the reason why I'm so comfortable in Central Brooklyn because I've been here my whole life, right? It's very easy to have that when you've been here for so long.
Right.
You kind of moved around and was in like 3 different distinct cultures.
For real.
Right? So how did that work on you as a child?
Yeah, it was rough because I'm telling you, like, Newark at that time was rough.
Yeah.
It was a lot of gangs. It was hectic, but you had a very community. It was a community. You know, it was a serious community. I lived on this block called Isabella Avenue, and like rap was starting to come out. You know what I'm saying? Like we started to take notice about hip hop, and Ron was like popping. You know, he was the one that was popping. So he kind of taught me how to pop. So I'm popping. You know, I'm popping and I'm doing all this. So you're kind of just like growing up in the environment of just music and just like, you know, the hood. You know what I mean? So Newark was definitely different from Canada.
Right.
And I could just tell you that, like, there's a reason why it's called Brick City. You know what I mean? Right. It was just rough, you know, but it was still beautiful because back then, you know, the block looked out for its own. It looked out for its own, like the children. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you knew everybody on the block. You know, and there's a block called South Orange Avenue. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with Newark, South Orange Avenue. So I was right there by South Orange Avenue, and then not too far was 18th Avenue. So it's just like, I remember like it was yesterday. It was just a very worthwhile upbringing growing up in Newark.
What type of child were you?
I was kind of like a nerd, man. You know what I mean? I was kind of like a nerd. I loved to draw. You know, I did a lot of graffiti. You know, I did a lot of graffiti. I did a lot of animation. I drew a lot. I played a lot of music. I was actually exposed to music through my parents, of course. You know, my dad was a cab driver. Right. So when my dad and I, like when I was rocking with my dad, before my mom and my dad split up, I would ride in his cab and I would listen to the music that he would play. So that's my first real introduction to music and you know, my wealth of music knowledge came from my dad. And my dad was a radio DJ back in Haiti. There was a radio station called Radio Caraïbe, Radio Caribbean.
Right.
And so he was a jock in Haiti. And so I get the whole radio thing from my dad, you know. Wow. But you know, when he came to New York and driving the cab, I would ride in the cab with him and I would be exposed to the oh my God, the genres of music that he would play from, you know, from soul to funk to compa, of course, to salsa, you know, to bachata, to, you know, my dad played everything, you know, and then that's how I and not to mention 70s rock classics, right? Soft rock, yacht rock, yacht rock. I loved it, you know, Ambrosia to, you know what I mean, like you name it, man, you know. So the yacht rock is something because back then you had AM radio, which I'm sure you know of. Absolutely. So the AM radio is what we listened to back then more so, and that's what I was exposed to, a lot of the 70s music, you know.
And I always say, like, excuse my allergies are killing me today. The Caribbean community in Brooklyn is probably the most broadest spectrum of music listening, right? Because already, like, look at music like language, right? So if you're from the Caribbean, you can speak ska, you can speak lovers rock, you can speak reggae, you can speak compa, you can speak calypso, you can speak soca, right? Yeah. And to people outside of that community, they don't know that that's different genres.
Right.
They just say, oh, that's Caribbean music, right? But I just named 6 different genres, right, from the Caribbeans. And then you come to America in the 70s, in that time frame, and you're dealing with disco, and you're dealing with yacht rock, and you're dealing with R&B.
Disco.
Right, disco.
Right? I mean, that was a heavy, you know, genre that I was exposed to in the 70s.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your Donna Summers, your Bee Gees, you know, and then you're talking about, you know, Saturday Night Fever that came out in the 70s, which exploded.
Right. Travolta.
So everybody was into Travolta, you know what I mean? And you know, and Dancing Queen and you know
ABBA.
songs like the ABBA,
Right.
you know.
So your palette, your range musically as a kid was probably phenomenal. It's a range that people probably don't even have to this day, right?
Absolutely.
That was a
See the Grays.
yeah, that period, Harry, was a golden era.
Loved it. Loved the 70s
of music.
and
We're
80s.
talking Bob Marley was still alive.
Absolutely.
Right?
I remember when
and John Lennon was still alive.
I remember.
Right?
He was still alive. I remember when he got killed.
Yeah, I remember when he died. I remember. Yeah. So
and I'm a huge Beatles fan, by the way. Huge Beatles fan through Boy Scouts. Because when I was a youth, you know, I went to the Boy Scouts and we went to a sleepaway camp. I was just telling my lady this, that you know, I went to sleepaway camp with Boy Scouts, all white kids, you know, Sacred Heart. And that's all they played was the Beatles, you know. So I'm hearing, you know, a whole bunch of Beatles songs that just like I loved it, you know, back then. I just listened to it, and because you're exposed to it, you just kind of grew to like love it, you know what I mean? And to this day, you know, every McCartney Lennon song that comes on, I'm just like, you know, it just takes me back to that when I was in the Scouts. Right. You know, I was a Boy Scout, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, so it was just it was a great experience.
When you were that age, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow. What did I want to be when I wow. I don't even remember, man. I think I always wanted
It's a real answer.
No, really,
like,
I don't even remember. I think I always knew that I wanted to have something to do with music. That was very clear for me. And that was a passion that I pursued all the way through high school, you know, through high school. And when it was an opportunity, because I just loved watching all the singers and just the bands and watching Soul Train, you know what I mean? So I knew Soul Train was a huge part of my upbringing. You know, watching Soul Train on Saturdays, you know, was just like, it was watching like, you know, Fat Albert and Soul Train.
Saturday morning television was so important.
Crucial.
To childhood.
Absolutely.
Saturday mornings were like, that was it.
That was it.
Right?
Particularly for Soul Train.
Right.
Because you're exposed to the artists that got to perform and just sing your favorite songs. And, you know, and then not to mention back then, not only Soul Train, but then you had
American Bandstand.
I was just gonna say that,
right? And remember Casey Kasem, the Top 40.
Yes, Casey Kasem.
All of that came on Saturday. Bro.
All on Saturday,
right?
And not only that, you had, you know, just the fact that you can see these artists perform. The Carol Burnett Show.
The Carol Burnett Show.
Come on, man.
Right.
The Jackson 5 was on the Carol Burnett Show all the time.
All the time.
So you wait. When I knew that the Jackson 5 was going to be on the Carol Burnett Show, I waited. I was there. I was present.
Right.
Present. And then you had shows like Dinah, Merv Griffin. I'm dating myself.
Right.
But I'm telling you,
Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas.
Right. They don't know, dog. They don't know. They don't know, but I was there.
Mike Douglas.
Wow. Yeah.
So I knew that whatever I wanted to do in life had something to do with music.
Right. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. So I do this a lot. I moderate. I interview people, and my style comes from like the Mike Douglas, Carson era, because number one, they would be drinking and smoking.
Right.
Like you can't do that shit on television now.
Right.
But Mike Douglas would be sitting there with brandy and a cigarette talking to Lena Horne or whoever, right? But then also, so it was that always was like, oh wow, that shit is cool as fuck. But then the other part about it was they were cool with, like, I can remember like Muhammad Ali and Mike Douglas, like Muhammad Ali shooting his punch, like they really connected.
Right. And for those that are watching, you could just
YouTube. Yeah, just YouTube.
Mike Douglas, Dinah Shore.
Yeah, just YouTube.
Carol Burnett. Like it was just...
So when I started doing this work, I really marked myself after that early shit when I was a kid watching the Mike Douglases, the Flip Wilson. Right? You know what I'm saying? Watching how they kind of moved in the space. And I just thought that shit was cool back in the day.
Flip Wilson.
Yeah, I just thought that shit was cool.
Yes.
So what high school did you go to?
Okay, so I went to initially I went to Seton Hall Prep.
Whenever somebody says initially,
Shout out to Seton Hall Prep.
High school.
Seton Hall Prep was my first 2 years of high school.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard because, you know, I wasn't a real brainiac,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a lot of brainiacs in at Seton Hall,
Mm-hmm.
and so I struggled with some of the courses at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school with Bill Bellamy.
Okay.
School with Bill Bellamy. You know, he and I used to.
Yeah, he's
home.
known in that community.
Yeah,
like his moms was like
we lived
like
not too far
official.
from each other.
Like then his mother like managed Faith or something for a minute.
I don't know.
Yeah, something like
know
that.
about
Something like
that.
that.
But we went to Seton Hall together.
Right.
You know, we went to Seton Hall. He lived like not too far from me.
Right.
Because when I moved to Norwood, that was another street after Isabel. I moved to Norwood. He wasn't too far from me, so we would walk home from school together. Shout out to Bill, and you know, it was like I said, you know, it was a bit of a struggle for me coming from 8th grade to 9th grade, 10th grade, right. And then my mom, you know, she wasn't balling out of control. You know what I'm saying? She was a single mom. Salute to my mom, Jeannie. And after my second year, she couldn't afford it anymore. So my aunt, who lived in Union, New Jersey, Vauxhall, took me out. She took me out, shout out to my tante Suzette, and took me to Union High School. So I went to Union High for my remaining 2 years. And that was like the best year. And mind you, Seton Hall was an all-boys school. So that was another thing. I'm like, all boys, you know, it wasn't really.
It gets boring after.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. But the campus that I was on was the Seton Hall University campus at the time. Before they moved to West Orange, we were all together. It was Seton Hall Prep and Seton Hall University over there on South Orange Avenue. So it wasn't that bad because, you know, you would see, you know, the college, you know, students there. But you know, my junior and senior year, I went to Union High, and that was the best years of my life because that was hip hop. That was like 80s. You know what I'm saying? That was like, I'm popping, I'm battling in the hallways, I'm DJing. Right. You know what I mean? The culture. Hip hop, full force. You know, UTFO. You know what I'm saying? Rapper's Delight. You know, hip hop just consumed me. Junior, senior year. You know, and I became that hip hop head. Like I was like, you know, I was popping.
Pop locking.
Oh my God, I was that dude. You know what I'm saying? I would, you know, I would bring my younger brother, and we would do the class shows. And for those that know, they know.
Right.
You know?
No, I know. I talk a lot about this feeling that I used to have in the late 80s and early 90s when I got enveloped in the culture like that. And I kind of just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So like I did things that I'm not even great at. Like I was a dancer for DJ Smooth C, right? My man Smooth C, shout out to Smooth C. But I would go to parties.
Too.
I was rhyming. Yeah, but I was rhyming for a while before I let people know that I was rhyming. Yeah. Like I would write rhymes and just say them like to my sisters, right? Like in the crib, I'm like shitting on them, right? But I wouldn't do it outside until like I got around people that were nice, and that when I spit, they was like, "Oh, you nice," right? And then that kind of empowered me. Right. But even before the rhyming, I was taking crates into parties, dancing. Like I'm not even a dancer. I'm in front of the DJ booth getting busy, right? Because I needed to be attached to the culture.
Absolutely.
Like even now, even what we do right now, we're attached to the culture, right? So there was this thing in our generation that hip hop was so influential that it was like, yo, how can I be on the inside of this?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I had to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I had to be a part of it, especially watching it.
Yeah.
You know, because back then, you know, you talk about New York Hot Tracks. You know what I'm saying? New York Hot Track. That was a early video show that
big show. That was a big thing.
Before
Friday
video
nights.
Music, Friday nights. Before Video Music Box. There was New York City Hot Tracks hosted by Carlos de Jesus. And true story, I ended up being on the same station as Carlos de Jesus, WNJR, years later. So that was an honor. And like, if you would have told me back then, but watching New York Hot Tracks exposed me to the culture. And then, of course, Video Music Box. Coming home, running home, from school. Literally running home to catch Video Music Box.
Right.
Shout out to Uncle Ralph McDaniels, a friend of my uncle.
Absolutely. I was on the phone with him last week. Shout out to Uncle Ralph.
I love Uncle Ralph.
Like literally running home, like literally like leaving school at 3, getting my sandwich, because that was a plus. That was definitely going to happen.
Yes.
And then getting in front of the TV, eating my sandwich at 3:30 when it came on.
Yes.
Like that's how important it was.
Yes. It was important. And Uncle Ralph exposed me to so many artists and, the performance of hip hop, not only the performance of rap, but DJing, graffiti, fashion, hip hop fashion, and of course just the language, and I just had to be a part of it. So back then, I had just started DJing, and I didn't have turntables. I couldn't afford turntables back then, and so I had to go, practice over my friend's house. Shout out to Les. Shout out to Gene. I went to their crib. Shout out to DJ Tony Martin. And I went to their crib to practice, and they allowed me. And I must say, their parents, their moms allowed me to come in there.
What was it about DJing?
What do you mean? What was your
like in terms of taking it up as an art?
What
was it about?
I would spend my last bread. Sometimes I wouldn't even eat if I knew that I was going to get that record.
Yeah, I know the
If I was going to get that record, it didn't have to be hip hop. It had to be soul, funk, reggae, whatever. If I knew I wanted to get that, I would save up my bread and I would go get that record. And sometimes I wouldn't even eat. So yeah, that's what it was. It was the beginning of collecting vinyl. For me. And I'm a vinyl purist. I still have my vinyl to this day. So that to me, excuse me, that to me was crucial in my development as a music lover and a music connoisseur.
What was the first DJ party you DJed?
First DJ party was probably just a house party.
Right.
Just house parties. I did a lot of house parties.
Definitely what it was. Right?
I did a lot of house parties. I did a lot of private events, like people would ask me to DJ their baby shower or.
What was your name back then? Was it always hard?
Oh man, no.
I know it was.
My original DJ name, for those that know in Jersey know, but my original DJ name was DJ Casanova.
Try to be
Kaz
cool.
for sure.
That's that 80s. That's that 80s vibe.
Yeah, so shout out to Grandmaster Kaz. But I was Kaz in Jersey. I was Kaz. And I thought I was cool with the ladies, you know what I mean? So that's how I got the name. Actually, a lady in high school gave me the name. She was like, "You should call yourself DJ Casanova." I was like, "All right, cool. I'll take it."
That's so mid 80s, bro.
Very, very mid 80s, man. So Kaz for short. Everybody called me Kaz. People still in Jersey call me Kaz because they know me as Kaz. And then another lady said, "You should change your name to Hard Hittin Harry." Just out of yeah.
Pause. I don't want to watch.
And I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm gonna tell you why. Maybe you'll definitely understand. Back then, we're still talking about the 80s.
Right.
Maybe 90s when house music started coming out.
Right. I wanted to touch on that too. Yeah. Right.
So remember Farley Jackmaster Funk?
No.
Kenny Jumpin'. It used to be 3-part names.
Right.
So that was really how I got the Hard Hittin Harry, because it became like a 3-part name type thing.
Gotcha.
I say Farley Jackmaster Funk because those that know house music from Chicago would know that specifically.
Right.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
And so the 3-part name thing became very popular around that time, specifically for Chicago house music. So she was like, you should call yourself Hard Hittin Harry. So I changed my name from DJ Casanova to Hard Hittin Harry, and it stuck. Like, you couldn't even say, I would say, hey, my name is Harry to this day.
Right.
And people are like, Hard Hittin Harry? Right. You know what I mean? So there's just no way to even get around it now. Like, I can't even say, hey, I just walk up to people and say, my name is Harry. Wait a minute, Hard Hittin Harry?
Hard Hittin Harry, right.
So I'm grateful, you know.
You touched on the house piece, and I wanted to kind of ask you about that, because for us in Brooklyn, in the late 80s, early 90s, New Jersey represented house music.
Without a doubt.
Right? Every time you went to a party in Newark, in East Orange, in West Orange, as a kid from Brooklyn, you were inundated with house music.
Yep.
And for me, I remember like how cultish house music was. Like how people would really love that shit. Like you would be in Bentleys and like, you know, it's hip hop. So you with your shit, and then house music would come on, and like people you were just standing next to that weren't even dancing to hip hop, house music come on and they're getting busy. Like they're going straight to the middle and doing their thing. Tell me about your experience in that, because again, that's a Jersey thing.
Yeah, I was blessed to grow up in Jersey around that time. There was a dope record store called Moving Records on Central Avenue that I got a lot of my music from, house music from. Shout out to Abigail Adams, shout out to Joe Smith. And so I got a lot of my house music from Moving Records. I lived in Moving Records, you know, but Jersey specifically had a club called Club Zanzibar.
Zanzibar, yes.
I don't even say anything more. Like that right there was the hub of, it was 2 clubs. It was Club Zanzibar and it was Club Sensations. Remember Club Sensations?
Yeah.
So shout out to Club Zanzibar with Tony Humphries.
Tony Humphries, right.
You know, I was there during the Tony Humphries era, and I lived in Club Zanzibar. I mean, forget about it, man. That was just like my real exposure, because Tony was not only at Club Zanzibar, he was also on 98.7 Kiss.
Correct.
So he would do, you know, the Kiss show, and then he'd bring all that flavor to Club Zanzibar. And
they would actually, I seem to remember Kiss actually used to be live at Zanzibar like on Saturday night.
Yes, sometimes they would. Definitely. So that was like the best for me, because I lived in Jersey at the time. And so I was going to Club Zanzibar. I was going to Club Sensations. DJ Mark Thompson was at Club Sensation. He lived in Union. So the beautiful part about that was he would put me on the guest list, like me and all my friends, and you know, people that like, if you knew Mark Thompson, you were on the guest list. You know, all you had to do was walk up to Sensation and say, I'm a special guest of Mark Thompson, and you're in. So that was the best, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to Club Sensations. And then at the time, I would also go to Roseland. You know, so I was going to Roseland. You know what I mean? I was doing a lot of the club hopping, you know, around that time. That was my early exposure to clubs, like me and my cousin Guy. And it was just a great experience, man. And so that was my exposure to house music. And then, you know, when Chicago house came out, you know, that was it.
Now,
talking about Marshall Jefferson.
Explain Chicago house to me, because I never even heard of it like that.
Well, Chicago house, you know, Chicago house at the time, you know, you're talking about an era that like tracks records, tracks music. There was another label. I forget the name of the label right now, man. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. But anyway, Chicago house was a period of time that came out that just exploded. Now, case in point, Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body. You know what I mean?
Definitely know that.
Virgo tracks. You know, I could go on and on and on. And it was just an amazing period of time.
Where he said 10 City and Frankie Knuckles.
10 City, Frankie Knuckles. You know, can't even forget.
Right. How can you forget
Frankie? Rest in peace.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was a period of time that was just very crucial for those that love house music. And then Jersey had its own specific sound, because Jersey's sound while what I remember from Chicago house is more tracks, you know, not too much vocals.
Right.
More instrumentation. Whereas Jersey was rooted in gospel. Like I know Kenny Bobian. You know what I mean? Kenny Bobian was like Eddie Stockley. You know what I mean? Ace Beat Records, shout to Ace Beat Records, Ace Mungeon, and labels like that, Moving Records. You know what I mean? Moving Records. And labels like that were rooted in gospel. So Jersey had a different type of house music where they would have more of the vocals. Church vibe.
I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I feel what you're saying. Like when you're saying it's rooted in gospel, I get that.
That's why Jersey house is more like you know, it was like a lot of vocals, you know.
Right. I got that.
Big shout out to Barbara Tucker. You know what I mean? And that's really how what would be the distinction, I would say, between Jersey house and Chicago. Chicago, like I said, had a lot of tracks, like a lot of instrumental tracks, you know, and I loved it. You know, it would just get everybody going. You know what I'm saying? Like this, you know, like this, like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was just like, just unforgettable.
Just phenomenal.
phenomenal.
DJ
Phenomenal.
Super JP mentioned Ricky Martin.
Yes. What's up, JB? What up? That's my cousin right there.
So
305-718 music.
Out of high school, what's Harry doing?
Okay, so
Graduated.
graduated.
Young man.
Yeah, graduated from high school in '85,
Right.
and my mom was like, "You got to go to college." You know, that was the idea, because you know, Haitian parents, they don't play. My mom was like, "What are you gonna do with your life?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Haitian parents are very like, you're either gonna become a doctor, you're gonna become a lawyer, or something having to do on those sorts. I knew I wanted to do music, but I did go to college. I went to like college my first year out of high school. I went to Essex County. Didn't stay because I found in the newspaper this ad that said, "Do you want to be a radio DJ? If you want to be a radio DJ, come to our school." Right?
Right.
So it was a school called Announcer Training Studios.
Wow.
In Times Square.
Wow.
In the city.
Right.
And I said, that's where I want to be. I want to do that. So this school, which was also Announcer Training Studios, also Crown Business Institute. It was also a business school, but it had a broadcasting arm that actually taught you how to be on the radio. So I said, I wanted to do that. So I went to the school, signed up. They taught me how to read copy. They taught me how to splice reel-to-reel tape.
To edit.
Edit.
Right.
Splicing with the razor.
Right.
Okay?
The real shit.
The real shit.
Right.
Carts. I don't know if you remember carts, like radio carts. Like it was like a 8-track type of a situation that you had that you would put in to play the commercials. For those that don't even remember that, but that's what it was back then. And the teachers were actual radio personalities.
Wow.
Like Al Bandero from 92 KTU.
Wow.
Remember 92
Yeah,
KTU?
absolutely.
92 KTU was like, for me, you know, a station that I listened to religiously. There was 92 KTU, 98.7 KISS, 107.5
WBLS. Yeah.
Those three stations.
Yeah, 92 KTU was like that vibe. Like when I went to tech that 9th grade year, they put me onto that shit because it was like, you know, the white kids had that shit, and like you said, and I you know, we've discussed this before. That yacht rock, that soft rock, that Phil Collins, right? The what's my man, Simply Red, Holding Back the Years.
Yes.
That shit was hip hop to us.
But back then, 92 KTU played a lot of freestyle.
Right. They also played, right.
So they played
Right.
like, you know, you would hear
that's the Latino brothers in there, right? Exactly, right.
They had Al Bandero, Chuck Leonard. They had a lot of those, you know, a lot of those DJs back then.
Right.
The Latin Rascals. I remember the Latin Rascals, and they had like, you know, the mixes, like the straight. Yo, I learned how to pause button mix listening to 92 KTU. Pause button mix with the cassettes.
I
You know
tried
what I'm
that
saying?
before. I know that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, that's back when you was making tapes.
Yeah, that's when I was making
Right,
cassette
when you're making
tapes.
cassette tapes, yeah.
You know?
Right.
So back then, you know, I said, okay, I'm going to learn how to be a radio DJ, a personality type thing, you know? So I went to the school and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I went to school with Kim Jack Riley, who's the wife of Mark Riley. You know what I mean? And we went to school together. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when I see her today, we're like,
that's crazy.
I see her, yeah.
But you know why that's crazy though? Because that's when business schools were a thing in New York City. Like you had Barbizon. Right. Like you had all these like schools that were vocationally based. Exactly. Right. You don't have that shit anymore.
Exactly.
Like when you said business school, you took me back. I'm like, oh shit, I remember. It used to be business school. You said Barbizon.
We're gonna lose a lot of people.
You're not gonna get this. You're not gonna get this. But if you get this, this is for you.
Barbizon.
Yeah. So yeah, you took me back with that. Yeah. So you actually.
So I went to that school.
Right.
I graduated and I got my FCC license.
Wow.
Today, I don't even think you need an
FCC license.
I don't even think you need an FCC license to be on the radio, but I did, you know, I made my bones, man. I did the work. You know, and it was amazing. I learned how to read copy. Like how to read a commercial, how to read a spot, 30 seconds, 60 seconds on the nose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's my upbringing. And then, you know, then I had a baby. I became a father.
How old were you?
My first son, I was 21. Okay. I was 21. My eldest son is 21. Shout out to Elijah. And I was a father, and then I got married around that time at the same time. So that was an amazing experience for me to become a father. I had to jump right into you know, growing up to adulting. Right. You know what I mean? And then so I got into that, and then I got into banking. You know, I had to get a job because, you know, you couldn't really make a living off of DJing. Right. Don't think that, you know, that was my life. That I had to get a job. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up working for a chemical bank. Well, I had several jobs before then, but my real job after that was working for chemical bank. I worked for a bank in the customer service department. And that was an amazing experience too.
I bet you the radio voice helped like a motherfucker in customer service.
Oh, absolutely. Bank. People were calling me up and they were like, you know, can I get my bank account balance? And I would give them their balance. Oh, you have a great voice.
Yeah, you're killing them.
You know, so I'm killing them. So I was doing that and DJing at the same time. You know what I mean? DJing at the same time, but really, you know, becoming an adult and raising my son at the time. Yeah. And so that was an experience right there. And so that was like 88, 89, you know, around that time, creeping into the 90s, you know what I'm saying? And that was my life. That was my life at that time. You know, I was a banker. Right. Then from there, I got laid off because I was during the Reagan era, you know, got laid off. And then I ended up working for a leasing corporation. And so I always had these jobs, you know what I'm saying? I always had these jobs and I was making bread. And then I sold pagers. I got this job with Metro Media Pagers. You remember Metro Media? Yeah. PageNet? Yeah,
PageNet. Oh yeah.
Yes. Right. So that was the battle at the time. And I linked up with Metro Media and I started selling pagers. And I made so much bread.
Because it was commission.
It was commission. Bro, I made a base pay of like a G, and then I would make commission off of each pager that I sold. And let me tell you, at that time, pagers had just came out.
Right. So everybody
had, and then don't let the alphanumeric pages come out. What? Bro. The alphanumeric pages where you can actually see the words.
Change the game. This is before two ways.
Now,
this is before two ways. Alphanumerics was the big dog. Yeah.
Peak game. The alphanumeric page, I didn't even have to sell. Like I was basically delivering.
Right.
Because the major companies in my territory, which was Hudson County, they said, yo, we need 300 pages. They knew what they wanted already. So I would go basically delivering the page. Like, here you go.
You didn't have to sell them.
I didn't have to sell. They knew what they wanted.
Right.
So I made bread. I made like $1,000 base pay and commission off of each pager that they made.
Right.
I was caking.
You was killing them.
Caking.
You was killing them.
You know, I had a whip, you know,
Right.
I bought my lady a whip at the time, you know.
Right. So now it's moving.
It was moving.
Now it's moving.
It's moving.
And you still DJing.
And I'm still DJing.
And you're hitting clubs, you're still kind of learning the game.
Yeah, I want to say that at the time I'm learning the game. I'm studying DJs like Cool DJ Red Alert, salute to Cool DJ Red Alert, Mr. Magic, Frankie Crocker, listening to, you know, all the DJs on the radio, just paying attention and studying them. DJs like Uncle Basil, you know, Basil, DJ Camacho, you know, Wild Pitch Parties, and I'm just soaking up like a sponge. Basil actually allowed me to come into his booth and allowed me to just study him, you know, and just be in the booth. So I learned a lot of my DJ style and music selections from Uncle Basil. I call him my big Uncle Basil. I just saw him in LA. So I'm grateful for those DJs, like I said, like Red Alert, you know, even Funkmaster Flex. You know, Flex is an OG, man.
Yeah.
You know, I give him a lot of props, man, because he's still on the radio.
Right.
But he definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize Flex has been on the radio now for like 30 years. Like at least 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Even DJ Enough. Salute to DJ Enough. You know, DJs like that just like really, I look up to those guys, man, because they do the radio thing and they really put it down musically and for the culture. Right. You know? Right. And so that was really my 80s, 90s kind of vibe, you know, going into that era.
Now, what happens around the early to mid 90s to kind of bring you back full circle back into the game? Like actually like getting real money in the game?
Well, the Fugees. Right. The Fugees came into play around 92, 93.
Now, how did this happen?
How did this happen? My brother, Papa Levi, a dread. Papa Levi told me, he was a good friend of mine. He was actually the brother of my business partner, my former business partner, Lisa Chase Patterson. And he was like, "Yo, the Fugees. There's a new group called the Fugees, and they're looking for a DJ. And if you want to be a part of it, you have to audition." So I was like, "All right, cool." So there was a studio called the Booger Basement, and it was in East Orange, New Jersey. And I went down there, and I met Clef. I had already knew Clef. Clef and I had knew each other because he's, you know, Newark.
Right.
You know, Newark.
Right.
And I had already knew Clef, but Clef had just got signed. He had just got the deal with Rough House Columbia. And I auditioned, and I made it. You know, Clef was like, "We need you to be a part of this experience." Lauren was there. She had just did Sister Act 2. She still had the braids and everything. Right. So if you look at Sister Act 2 and you see her braids in Sister Act 2, that was her look back then. And if you look at the early Fugees Translated Crew album, that was how Lauren looked back then. So she had just came in fresh from Sister Act.
She was young too. She was like 16, 17.
Super young.
Yeah, super young.
Yeah. And so I made it, and I started doing shows with the Fugees. And that was a really cool experience because I got to learn how to be a show DJ. And that wasn't the easiest thing, I want to say, because Clef is a tough dude. Clef is a tough dude. But it was an experience that taught me how to be a better DJ. Because, case in point, I'm gonna give you an example. When we did shows, and mind you, the Fugees hadn't blown up yet. This is pre the score. This is the first album, Blunted on Reality. Right? They had a song called Fuji La.
Fuji La, right.
Right. So that was their song. It didn't even really get no radio play. Nobody was really feeling it like that, you know. But we did a lot of shows. We did a lot of showcases. And the label wasn't even feeling them like that. The label wasn't even, at that time we were signed with, we were label mates with Escape. We were label mates with Nas. And we were label mates with, who else? Big L. So at that time, Fugees were way low on the
down
totem pole.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nas, come on.
Right.
Nas was already blowing up
Right.
with you know, he had did Live at the Barbecue. He had just, you know, put out the album. You know what I'm saying? And that was it. You know, so Nas was like the label favorite. Shout out to Taish Harris. So, and shout out to Tembisa too.
Tembisa was here.
Yeah, I know. So at the time, you know, doing the shows with them were really was hard because it was like you're doing shows with people that didn't know who they were. So we were, you know, I was part of the band, you know what I mean? Like I was the DJ, you had a drummer, Jerry Wonder on bass,
right?
You know what I mean? You had Mad Spider, you had Papa Levi, you know, that were rhyming. They were doing like more like the chatting, the Jamaican style, Lauren, Praz, and Wyclef. And so, you know, when you're doing shows for an audience that didn't know who you were, you had to go in. You had to like really perform, you know? So I was responsible for, we went to, I don't know if you remember Don Juan, where they cut dub plates. Yeah. So Clef, Jerry and I, we went to Don Juan in Brooklyn. We would cut dub plates and I would actually play stripped down versions of their tracks. And so it would be like, you know, no bass here and no, you know, you know what I'm saying?
And then only the bass.
The bass and, but you know, basically foundation, you know, it'd be a very skeleton.
That's some shit. Like you're going over their heads now, but that's, okay, right.
And this is on vinyl.
Right, it's on vinyl.
So I would have my records that I would play, like I would play, you know, you know, back then, you know, I'm your idol, your highest idol, you know, got it made, special ed for Clef to come out on, you know. Then I would play, you know, I don't know, J. Rooted Damage or whatever. I mean, I'm just throwing out songs, but I would have my records that I would play that each of these MCs would come out on, that people would know, the songs that they would know.
Right. Because you got to do this because they don't know the artist.
They don't know the artist.
So you got to perform in a way that's going to drive the crowd. Got you.
And I had to like get my weight up in terms of my cutting and my scratching because all eyes are on me. Like in the very beginning, I'm the guy. Right. So the audience is like this. You know what I'm saying? So I had to be like this, ready. And I had to put 3 different shows together. For the show in Philly, you know, for the show in wherever we went, you know, everywhere that we went, I had to put together 3 different types of shows because you never knew, you know, which audience you would run into.
Right.
So I had to be prepared, you know, to appeal to each audience. You know, all right, Clef would be like, all right, we're gonna do show A. All right, we're gonna do show B. All right, we're gonna do show C because this crowd, you know what I'm saying? So that was the experience. Not to mention, we're also doing showcases for Sony. And Sony was just like, you know, they just weren't as supportive at the time. So it was safe to say that Fugees almost got dropped had it not been for Salam Remy. He did the remix to Nappy Heads. Yo, Mona Lisa, can I get a date on Friday? And if you're busy, that right there.
That was a big tune.
And that was the one that really got radio involved.
Right.
You know, shout out to Funkmaster Flex. Shout out to Stretch and Bobbito. You know, they were the ones that were on it in the very beginning as well.
You know, I can see people not necessarily buying into the Fugees early because Wyclef was very eccentric in how he approached music, and Lauren was very traditional in her lyrics.
Right.
So it was kind of like, because I remember when I first heard that song, I was like, oh, okay, like, I don't smoke blunts, I don't always catch my breath. Like, I remember feeling Lauren, but being like with Wyclef, like, okay, well, what is he doing? Right. So I could see that.
Yeah. And you know, Lauren, because she was female, because she was, you know, she was pretty, she was, you know, beautiful, and she had skills.
Right. I saw Lauren freestyle one time. I think I was at Morgan, so I came home. and it was some spot in the village. And bro, after that, I was like, oh, the chick from Sister Act,
Yes.
she's crazy, right?
She's crazy.
Yeah,
She's crazy.
yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she had it back
You
then.
know, and so it was a beautiful thing to witness. I watched their come up, you know, and I was very honored and grateful to be a part of that come up. Then I got fired.
Why'd you get fired?
I got fired because they had a tour, and I'm never afraid to say.
So by now they're signed. By now
they're signed.
moving.
They've been signed.
It's
They're
the
moving.
score.
They're moving.
Right.
It's not the score yet.
It's not the score yet.
Not the score yet. But it was very close to getting there because now they're getting a lot of attention. They're getting a lot of shows. They're getting a lot of requests for features and stuff like that.
Right.
So there was a tour that came up, a European tour. Actually, I'll never forget it. And they decided to go with another DJ. So shout out to DJ Leon, because DJ Leon came on after me. That was my guy. And they just decided to go with another DJ. And so I remember at that time, I was hurt. You know, I was hurt because I was like, you know, when you're at that moment, when you're like, okay, I'm with the group that's signed. Right. I'm the DJ.
Right.
I'm like, man, I've made it, Mom. You know what I'm saying? And for them to just like say it kind of pulled the rug under. And I'm never afraid to say this because I tell this story because what are you gonna do? Right. You know, what are you gonna do? What's your next move? Right. My man. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So so that happened. Praz came to my crib and said, you know what, we're going with another DJ. I was like, all right, cool. Now I was living with my mom at the time, you know, and my mom was like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So maybe a month later, my boy called me from a PR firm in Manhattan called Double Exposure. And he was like, yo, what are you doing? I was like, not much, you know. He said, well, I'm working at this PR firm, and it's a man by the name of Angelo Ellerby, and the PR firm is called Double Exposure, and I'd like you to come up and learn publicity. I was like, all right, cool. You know, I said, all right, cool. So I went to New York. I was living in Orange, New Jersey at the time, and I took the train and went to the office. Beautiful office. And the very first day that I got there, they're putting together sandwiches for Granddaddy IU. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. He just passed away. Indeed. So they're literally, I get there that day. Right. That day, they're assembling sandwiches
to meet with him.
No, because he's doing a press event the next day in Newark.
Wow.
So I didn't understand none of this. I'm just seeing a whole bunch of sandwiches, CDs, and I'm like, what is going on? They're slapping stickers on the sandwich called IU Cares. IU Cares. Because what he was doing the next day was he was going to a shelter to give out sandwiches to a shelter. And after that, after he gave out the sandwiches, so I'm there. He put me to work immediately. My man Vince Carroll, shout out to Vince Carroll. He put me to work immediately. He was like, I need you to help putting together these sandwiches. So I'm slapping stickers on like 500 sandwiches. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Right. And IU cares. So the next day, you know, I meet Vince and we go to pick up IU in Long Island. And IU's brother, you know, we jump in the car and Mr. Magic was there. Shout out to Mr. Magic. I had the picture and everything. And so we go to Newark and we go to the shelter and we're giving out sandwiches to the homeless, to the homeless that was there. And I was like, what am I doing, man? You know, I'm giving out sandwiches to the homeless and their music, you know, and everything. And then right after he was done, we went to City Hall. And the councilman gives IU this proclamation. There's a whole bunch of press there. I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody was there, like Star Ledger, The Source, XXL, like a whole bunch of magazines. Everybody's there. Ching, 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 ching. And he's like, And the councilman is like, yes, I now, just like I got a proclamation.
Right.
He's getting
shit.
it.
The same shit.
I'm like, wow. So that was my first introduction to publicity. Yes.
See, a lot of people don't even understand, like, until, like, it took me a while to understand the nature of that job.
Right.
But you got, like, a front row seat. Like,
I jumped right into it.
Stickers on sandwiches and heading out.
We thank you, Granddaddy Ayub, for coming to Newark to give out sandwiches to the community. And you're a great guy.
Right.
And you deserve this proclamation.
Right.
So that was my exposure that day.
So a week later. Job.
Well, I didn't get offered the job yet.
Oh.
I'm an intern.
Right.
This is an intern situation.
So you go from DJing
to being an intern.
One of the groups that would come one of the greatest groups in hip hop ever.
Right.
To becoming an intern at a publicity firm.
At a publicity firm. For Vince Carroll.
Right.
So a week later, Mary J. Blige comes up to the office with KC. This is before My Life album drops. And I'll never forget it. She's there, and I'm not even afraid to say this because this is like real, like this is my truth. But at that time, Mary J. wasn't doing a lot of great interviews.
Right.
She was very.
We know that. Yeah, we know. There was a time when Mary was struggling with interviews. Yes, she was very hood. She wasn't polished yet.
She wasn't polished.
Right.
So I happened to be in the same room with Mary J., where my boss, Angelo Ellerby, a very strict man, gay man, I should say, he had all of probably her worst interviews lined up on VHS. And he actually had her sit there and watch herself. I was like, wow. Wow. So I saw Mary like literally break down at times, because
like
she was
cringing at this stuff.
Right. Because, doing interviews like,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can't do that on camera.
No.
You're on camera.
No.
So my boss was like, at the time, Angela was like, you see what you're doing? You can't do that.
Right.
You can't do that on camera. You can't scratch yourself on camera, because then people going to think you're on crack.
I'll be scratching myself on camera.
No, we're all guilty.
I'll be scratching myself on camera.
We're all guilty. We're all like, I'm guilty of, what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I'm the worst with,
I'm guilty of, right?
I'm the worst with, what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Right. Nah, I mean, but when you're on camera, there's a certain way to conduct yourself. Yeah. Specifically, not scratching, not,
Right. Playing with your nose.
Playing with your nose, you know what I'm saying? So I literally said that, and that was my introduction to artist development.
Right.
That was my introduction to artist development and image control.
Right.
So that was amazing.
That's crazy. Like that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like a week later.
Right.
So I did whatever I could do for Angelo. Like I literally got his dry cleaning, and I stayed late doing presentations, and I did whatever I could, and I did a lot of mailers. Like back then, you had to mail out press kits.
Right,
my brother.
Right.
All those magazines, I worked with all of them. Vibe.
Right.
Source.
Right.
I had a press list like that was crazy.
Right.
With magazines, television, newspapers, no internet back then. And I had to do fax campaigns.
Right.
So I'd be there.
Sitting at the fax machine. Literally faxing.
Yes. To each journalist. And shout out to all the journalists that I've ever worked with over the years since the 90s. They all know me. They all know me. BET, MTV, VH1, XXL, Blackbeat, Right On. Shout out to Cynthia Horner, Rudy Meyer. Like I could go on and on. Tembisa.
Right.
Tembisa and I worked together. That's how I know Tembisa.
Right.
Because Tembisa was at Gavin. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic.
Yeah.
Tembisa was at Gavin.
Right.
And she was one of my journalists.
Right.
I had never met Tembisa until over the phone. Like we would talk over the phone.
Right.
And she always took my phone calls.
Right.
I would be pitching my artists to her. I had Drew Hill. I had the Isley Brothers. I had so many different, I had Uncle Luke. You know what I'm saying? And if I needed Tembisa to do an article or to write something for me, she would always pick up the phone. And she had to, because she dealt with DJs and journalists, publicists, from all over the country, doing reports.
Right.
For the Gavin report.
Right.
So salute to Tembisa. She's one of my dearest friends.
Yeah, that's my sister.
When she moved from Cali, her and her husband,
right.
She's family. Like, we watch Mecca.
Right.
Like, she came, Mecca, she would leave Mecca at my crib.
Right.
And so Mecca and my kids grew up together.
That's
like,
great.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, yeah, man, that was like a serious period of time, double exposure. That was from 94 to 97.
Right.
And then I got fired again.
How'd you get fired that time?
I got fired because KRS-One.
Chris.
KRS-One reached out to me in the middle of the night.
Right.
You know Ramos?
Yes.
Ramos put KRS-One on the phone with me in the middle of the night. This was like maybe 11 o'clock at night. I get a phone call from KRS-One and Ramos.
This is crazy.
And I'm at double exposure. I'm working at double exposure. I'm getting a check, like $200 a week.
You're in the house though. You're not
in
the office. You're in the crib.
I'm in the crib.
You're in bed, probably.
I'm in bed.
Right.
I'm in bed. And Ramos and KRS-One calls me. And I'm like, hello? It's like, yo, Harry, I got KRS on online. He wants to talk to you. I was like, oh shit, okay. What's up? Hey, what's up? I'm going on tour tomorrow. And I need a publicist for my tour. I have $2,500 that I can send you right now. Because I'm going on a tour for a month, and I need publicity for this tour. I need a publicist.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't know, man, because I work at this PR firm. Right. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I could. He was like, well, think about it and let me know. Right. Get back to me. I was like, all right. So at the time, I called my former business partner, Lisa, and I said, yo, guess who just called me? She was like, who? I said, KRS-One. She was like, what did he want? She was like, yo, he's going on tour tomorrow and he needs a publicist. What's up? She was like, well, take the job. I was like, but I work at Double Exposure. Right. I can't do that. Like,
right.
I can't do that. She was like, well, I'll do it. She was like, I'll do it. You just give me the contacts and I'll do it.
Right.
I was like, all right. So I went to work the next day.
Right.
I got all my contacts, my Rolodex.
Your Rolodex. That's what you had, a Rolodex.
My Rolodex. Got my Rolodex. And I brought my Rolodex home.
Ooh.
Brought my Rolodex home. And I gave it to Lisa. I had two Rolodexes, actually. I had a backup. So I gave one of my Rolodexes to Lisa.
Right.
So she jumped on the project. KRS-One sent us the money.
Right.
$2,500.
Right.
Which back then was like $25,000.
Yeah, that was a bag. That was a bag.
$2,500 back then was like $25,000.
Yeah, that was a bag.
That was a bag.
Yeah, that was a bag.
So we took that money and bought a computer.
Uh-huh.
We bought a computer and we bought a fax machine.
Oh, so y'all was in business.
We was in business.
Right.
So she started, she did the tour. She did the tour. I helped her out with the tour behind the scenes. And at the time, we had got another project, a poetry group called A Touch of Reality. That's how I know Ty. That's how I know Ty.
Ty was in that group?
Craig was in that group.
Right.
Craig.
Yes. Craig who?
Craig, tall Craig. I forgot his last name. But it was Craig, Horace, and Tamara. You know Craig if I show you his picture. But that's how I know Ty, because Ty was rolling with them, doing poetry with them. So I picked them up as a group at the time. And Yvette Michelle, I'm not feeling you, no matter what you do, no matter. Yeah. So I knew Yvette Michelle's manager at the time by the name of Amanda Smith, who also worked at Flavor Unit, who also worked with Latifah. Amanda was managing Yvette Michelle, and she said, I need a publicist. So we had I had three clients at the time. And mind you, I'm still working at Double Exposure. My boss found out. My boss found out.
Mm-hmm.
I went to work one day, and he brought me into the office. He was like, I heard you're moonlighting, doing PR for other people. You can't serve two masters.
Can't serve two masters. He's right. Shout out to
you're
Angelo
fired.
Ellerby.
Shout out to Angelo Ellerby.
Yeah, shout out to him.
He's
right.
like, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
right.
I'll never forget that day. I cried, man. I was like, oh man. I was like, what? So I called my partner.
Right.
I said, yo.
The gig is up.
The gig is up. I just got fired. She was like, good.
Good. Right.
Now come work with
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's get this money. So I went to the crib to where she was at. You know,
right.
I was at her apartment.
Right.
And we started doing these campaigns, man. And you know, salute to Lisa Patterson, because she lit a fire under my ass, and she made me, you know, really get on my game. Right. So I did a fax campaign for myself
as a DJ,
as a publicist.
As a publicist,
I said, Hard Hittin Harry is no longer at double exposure. He is now the CFO and partner of Meridian Entertainment, full-fledged PR, artist development, and image company.
Right.
Ready for your service.
Right.
We blasted that joint out to mad labels.
Right.
Island Black Music was the first one that contacted us.
Right.
And that was our first client. Like, we did an Island Black Music client, and then the clients just kept coming. Mm-hmm. Just kept coming. Mm-hmm. We did Burger King, Wu-Tang Records.
Mm-hmm. So it's
kept coming. It's on.
It's on.
I'm doing PR like crazy from 1997 all the way to 2007. No, like, strictly referral. Just right. Everybody was like, yo, you need a publicist? Call Harry and Lisa, Meridian Entertainment. And my last client was John Cena. John Cena, shit. WWE. Wow. Yeah, that was huge.
Right.
Huge bag.
Right.
WWE bag.
Right. Vince McMahon bag.
Vince McMahon. Shout out to Freddie Fox on that one. Big up Freddie Fox. Bumpy Knuckles. You know, he knew, you know, what we did, and Freddie was just like, yo, get them, you know. So we did John Cena, and this was at the height of John Cena. Like, you know, you can't see me, John Cena.
Right,
you know?
right.
He was a champion, John Cena.
Right.
So that was a huge situation. That was right up until 2007. And then I said, couldn't do it anymore, man. I got burnt out. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to just really jump into this DJ thing. I had moved to Brooklyn at the time. I was living in Brooklyn. You know, I came to Brooklyn shortly after.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I came to Brooklyn shortly after 9/11.
Right, right.
Because Molly was born. My youngest daughter, Mozzie, was born in 2001. And I moved to Brooklyn. And I've been in Brooklyn from 2001 on. So
you cut ties with Publicity in 2007, which is crazy because that's around the time when I meet you.
Yeah. Like
right after that, because now you're DJ Hard Hittin Harry.
Yeah. Like, I got to be honest with you. Shout out to Jawandi, Barney.
Jawandi, that DJ?
The DJ, yeah.
I just spoke to Jawandi the other day.
Shout out to Jawandi.
Yeah, I'm going to have him do something.
Jawandi gave me one of my first gigs at Rockwell's.
Right. I remember Rockwell.
Rockwell's downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah, right on Rockwell Place.
Right.
They don't remember that.
Shout out to Rockwell. Yeah. Shout out to Jawandi. He gave me one of my first gigs when I moved to Brooklyn. Right. And I always tell him that. I always give him props for that. I say it on camera right now. Jawandi, salute. Yeah, Jawandi's I was still like making my bones.
Jawandi's a house music DJ too.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, he plays everything now.
I know. He plays everything. But he loves that house.
Yeah, he loves that house. Yeah. He has equipment. And just a real kind brother that really that put me on at that time. When I moved to Brooklyn, I wasn't really gigging like that. I didn't really know the scene like that. I wasn't connecting. Right. And Jawandi gave me one of my first gigs at Rockwell's. And, you know, I just started moving around, man, got the Cornerstone, you know what I'm saying? Got the Cornerstone. Big up Cornerstone, man. That was like
Cornerstone was an institution.
Cornerstone.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Zoe,
Jason, who gave me a lot of opportunities to do a gig. Shout out to David Levy.
Yeah, David.
You know, and just, you know, really gave me an opportunity to not only DJ there, but to connect with the community of Brooklyn. And I really, a lot of my real good friends, hardcore friends, are from Cornerstone and Rustic.
Yeah, come out of that.
You
Absolutely.
know,
For me as well.
Yes.
Because at that time, so 07, 08, that's the beginning of Cornerstone, the beginning of Rustic, right? And these were two places that were new at the time. And you know, when you get a new place, then people always travel into a new space.
Right.
And then that space either proves or disproves that it's going to have longevity.
Right.
Lucky for us, Cornerstone had history because it was Brooklyn Mod.
Right.
It was Buttercup Lounge.
Right.
Before that, it was Sheila's. So it had, that building had always had cachet in the community.
Right.
Right. So you knew, I
knew it as Brooklyn Mod.
Yeah, Brooklyn Mod.
I had a friend that worked
when I graduated junior high school, true story.
Yeah. Because you went to Tech.
Well, I went to Tech, but in junior high, I was at Satellite East. My mother took me to Sheila's for my junior high school graduation dinner. We sat upstairs. And Al Jarreau was at Sheila's.
Wow.
True story. So that space had always had cachet in this community. Then once it stopped being Sheila's, then it was Brooklyn Mod, and that was a whole vibe.
Yeah, that was a
right.
vibe.
This was a coming of age. Right. This is a coming of age moment. This is hip hop, but this is also, if you saw Brooklyn Boheme with Nelson George, the thing that he didn't touch on was like how we were connected, like I don't want to say regular people, but regular people, like people like you and I were able to interface with the Wesley Snipes and the Big Daddy Kane's and the models and shit at a spot like Brooklyn Mod.
Right.
It was like a crossroads.
Absolutely. They were in there.
They were in there all the time.
All the time.
So then Brooklyn Mod became Buttercup Lounge. I didn't really fuck with it as much.
Red Bamboo.
That's when Jason's Peoples took over. But then it became Cornerstone, right? And Cornerstone harkened back to Brooklyn Mod a bit.
Yeah.
So then we started fucking with it again.
That's right.
Then Hard Hittin Harry's DJing at Cornerstone.
Oh man, it was some of the best years of my life. You know what I'm saying? Cornerstone. Because you had Cornerstone and then you also had Rustic down the street. You know what I mean?
Rustic started after Cornerstone.
Yes.
Right? And Rustic started in 08, 09. Rustic at the beginning was heavily D9 driven because the owner is Sigma.
Right.
So heavy fraternity and sorority piece.
Right.
I published my book in September of 09 and I did a book signing at Rustic. Tore it out. France pulled me to the side, like we met later. He's like, yo, yeah, shout out to France. That's the big homie. France was like, yo, whatever you want to do here, you good.
That's right.
You good.
Shout
He's
always
been, shout out to Rudy. He's always been like that. And so then Rustic had that thing to it.
Right.
Because France was so becoming, like he was so like he would rock with whatever was felt good.
That's right.
Then I managed Rustic.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, actually, you know what I mean? But I fuck with Cornerstone, but now I'm Rustic.
Right, yeah.
And
Team Rustic all day.
Team Rustic. And that became, it wasn't a rivalry. I don't want to call it a rivalry.
It was a rivalry.
It was a rivalry, but it was like, it was because it was the same, it was us.
Yeah, it was all us.
It was us. I'd be at Rustic, I'd be at Cornerstone.
Yeah.
Lee Rivers, shout to Lee. Lee was a Cornerstone dude, right? You know what I'm saying? So, but that's around that time. So I didn't realize how close that was to your publicity days. I didn't realize
that was right there. Because I'm gonna tell you how it happened. Around that time, shout out to Nikki, my daughter's mother and Molly's mom. She bought me my first Serato. And I was at Cornerstone at the time. I had a gig at Cornerstone at the time.
Right.
She bought me my first Serato vinyl kit, like for my birthday.
Right.
I'll never forget it because I had a gig that night. Zoe booked me.
Right.
And I had to do a gig that night. So I was nervous because I was like, damn, I don't know how to use Serato yet. I knew I loved it from going to Beach Street and seeing DJs rock on it. You know, it had just came out, you know, where the technology where you can actually use vinyl, but use your computer.
Right.
And you don't have to bring mad crates.
Right.
I was like, what? Okay. So Nikki bought it for me for my birthday. And I had a gig that night at Cornerstone. I brought like 2 crates with me just in case. Right? 2 crates with me. and I did the gig, and I didn't even have to use the crates. I just used the Serato. And for those that don't understand, it's just like, that was huge back then.
Right.
Because now I don't have to bring 10 crates with me.
Right.
To a gig.
Right.
I could just bring my laptop, my computer, if they have turntables, the platters. And that was it. So that was my beginnings of really playing out and really like developing my playlist, you know, at Cornerstone. I got to definitely say Cornerstone gave me my bones. In Brooklyn, you know, that was like the home base where I could really flex out.
Right.
And
but
learn,
again,
and learn and learn.
That space is an institution in the community.
Without a doubt.
Levy owns the building, right? There's a whole thing with that space.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So that was big.
It was big. It was big.
And that was the start.
It was again, you know, and I stress this, that it was the start of me making my bones as a DJ, as building my brand.
Right.
My brand. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Zoe, for helping me bring. They would let me do my birthday parties there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that shit was lit.
You know,
Jason,
we just did a lot.
That's my guy, 100%.
Man, for sure.
Zoe, I used to stay getting on Zoe, but Zoe's my guy, 100%.
Love
Those are
Zoe,
good people.
and I miss Zoe.
Fun fact: Harry DJ woman's 9th birthday party.
Tembisa during the pandemic.
That's big. That's crazy.
Let me tell you something about the pandemic. The pandemic for me, and thank you for bringing that up, Tembisa. The pandemic was a what are you gonna do moment. It equates to that moment of when I got fired from the Fugees.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
Right.
Because that was my life. That was my career. That's how I fed my family. That's how I paid my rent.
Right.
You know, my residencies, you know, at the time. So that was the beginning of, and for those that know, I was always online because I did Axiom online. I did Ustream. So this going online with IG and Facebook Live and all, nothing new to me. Those that know that I was always online. But when the pandemic happened, and we had to go online, and you know the DJs pretty much saved everybody's lives.
Facts.
You know.
Facts.
It was like, what are you gonna do?
Facts.
So I took that time to go within and really build my brand and really for example, I rebranded my website. Like I relaunched my website, and that's what I did. I just really jumped in. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put everything together. Like. What I told you today is just the scratch of the surface of my life story. So much that I've been through over my life, you know, but I took that time to actually put it all together in a way that I can. So if you go to my website, hardhittinharry.com, it's a pretty much a real concise, to the best of my ability, something that I could put together that once we come out of this, that people could say, okay, I want to book you.
Right.
So that's what I did during the pandemic.
Bro, every time you was live during the pandemic, I popped up.
Yeah.
And every time you saw me, right, we did the NAACP.
We did the NAACP.
Absolutely.
We did Stephanie Zimmerman.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Salute to Stephanie Zimmerman.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. You always been my go-to guy though. Because
and I appreciate that.
You've always bought, so for me, it was very important to curate the right audience.
Right.
And part of doing that is having the right DJ. And you and I have always been like this when it comes to audience.
Always.
Everybody that would come to a Hard Hittin Harry set are the same people that would come to a Deuce event.
A Deuce event.
Right.
No doubt.
And so it just was, you know, but in the pandemic, like you said, we got to it.
Yeah, we had to get to it.
We got to it. But I would always follow your lives. D Nice was killing it, okay, but I would always go on your lives.
Well, speaking of D Nice, shout out to D Nice. He did a news. The news did a piece on him, and they knew the producer. Shout out to Veronica Rosario. She knew that I was also doing lives as well
Right.
in Brooklyn, you know,
Right.
from being a local DJ,
Right.
you know. So she reached out to me on the heels of D Nice. When D Nice exploded with his lives, salute to him, and got like the thousands, and you know, he was on live. Veronica reached out to me and said, Harry, I know you've been doing this.
Right.
So I got to do a story during the pandemic. They I think it was 11, News 11. They did a story on me. And that was
I remember that.
It's on my website.
I remember that.
It's on my website. So they did a story on me, and I had to give D Nice. I gave D Nice props, of course. I was like, "Yo, salute to D Nice. I've been doing it too. I'm grateful to still, you know, be able to play music for my people. You know, because at the end of the day, we went to the people. We went to the people, and it wasn't about the money. Although I received a lot of donations and a lot of thank you to everyone that, you know, reached out and gave me cash apps, and it was great. Right. But I really wanted to play music. It was therapeutic. Right. It was therapeutic. Right. You know what I mean? So we went, everybody needed that therapy because everybody's like, we don't know what the world is, what's going on in the world. Right. So our DJs saved our lives, you know?
Absolutely.
And so that was really what it was for all of us. Like we all needed that therapy, the music therapy.
Absolutely. And then you and I connected on the Black Lives Matter mural.
Oh my God.
And I talk about that. Like, people don't really give us credit, Harry. Like, the Black Lives Matter mural was painted on Fulton Street in front of Restoration. Yes. Now, they did this shit across the nation. Black Lives Matter murals were all over the nation. Yes. But we took that mural and we programmed. Yes. Right? And I created Feel Good Fridays, and we brought Mr. C out. We did a gospel concert. Yes. We did Smith & Wesson. I came to you and I said, listen, this is what I got in terms of bread. Yes. I need a reggae vibe. Yeah. And you bought me Red Fox and Screechy Dan.
Red Fox, Screechy Dan, Mr. Easy.
Mr. Easy, right.
Mr. Easy, Nachi
David Levy.
David Levy came up on stage. That was an amazing
What was the sister's name? What was the sister's name?
Carrie Ann Scorpion.
Yeah.
Carrie Ann Scorpion came out. And shout out to King Heartbeat Sound.
King Heartbeat Sound. Shout out to King Heartbeat.
Yeah, shout out to
and that was a phenomenal night, bro.
Yeah, man, that was an amazing night.
That was an amazing night.
That was an amazing night because, for a number of reasons, because of the mural, you know, in Bed-Stuy, Restoration Plaza, and the fact that you curated and you brought, you know, programming out there. That was just a beautiful vibe. But again, it was during the pandemic. And it was a way for people, because people still wear masks, you know.
Right.
So
people were wearing masks.
It was a way for people to come out and just kind of like, okay, we outside.
Yeah.
That whole we outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
People came out like, yo, we outside. Yeah. Like this was crazy. So Red Fox and Screechy Dan
killed it.
You know, out there, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it was just phenomenal. And I thank you all the time.
And the corporations that we were able to get sponsorship from, shout to Squappin'. What happened? I'm just trying to focus. Shout to Stonecrest Realty, shout to Food Town, shout to Canva. They were the ones that were giving me the paper to get this done, right? But they were giving me the paper because they believed in this idea that we have to be able to model how to come back outside, right? Wow. And that's what I sold them on. I said, look, we're not going to be inside forever. So we got to model this. So I gave them all my social distancing things. We're going to be masked up. We're going to take temperatures. And we took temperatures. And not only did we take temperatures, but we did not let people in if they had a temperature. And every week, Harry, it was like 10 people, 15 people that would come, and you would hit them and they would have 101 fever. Wow. Facts. Wow. So we really, really modeled that shit. And the corporations believed in us. You believed in me. Absolutely. And together we created something that they made a book about the Black Lives Matter mural. And it doesn't speak at all about the work that we really did. Because we did it from a community standpoint. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't pretty at all times, but we brought people out and people enjoyed themselves. And they've never forgotten it. People still hit me today like, yo, Feel Good Fridays was the shit.
Yeah. And I came back again that Sunday.
For Juve, with Juve, shout to Juve, shout to Ted. I was with Ted the other night. Right.
What's my brother's name? Well, of course, King Heartbeat came out, but my DJ brother from the Bronx. Why am I blanking out? All right. You know who you are from the Bronx.
Yeah, we had that shit on lock.
Commish, DJ Commish,
DJ Commish.
DJ Commish.
Indeed. Shout out to Commish.
I'd have felt bad if I forgot his name.
Shout out
That's
to
my
Commish.
guy. Man.
Shout out to Commish.
Shout out to Commish. That was that Sunday. But yeah, man, that was great times.
Do you feel like you get, and we're going like it's full circle now because we started this talking about the proclamation you got with Farrah and with Narcisse and the team, and shout out to all of them. We love them.
Yes.
But do you feel like the culture understands the impact that you've had? Because you're like a two-sport player. You've had impact from the DJ standpoint, but then you had an entire 15-year publicity run.
Yes.
Where you were an actual working, successful publicist.
Yes.
And I had a publicist, out to Chastity Cox, who is Math Hoffa's publicist, text me and said she wanted to come, and I was hoping she would come. You know, I'm sure she got caught up in some other stuff, but like, she's a successful publicist. Successful publicists want to hear from you.
You listen, shout out to Chastity Cox. We talked.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I actually been trying to refer her to people because people ask me, like, I need a publicist. Who should I contact? So I reach out to Chastity Cox, Sarita Oglesby.
Shout out to Sarita.
Shout out to Sarita.
Absolutely.
Sarita work together. We work together. She still calls me boss.
Right.
Shout out to Sarita Oglesby.
Yeah, Sarita's working with Ralph.
Yes.
Out at something with the Queens Public Library they're doing. Archiving some stuff.
Sarita's amazing. And I watched all of these. Rachel Nordlinger that works with Reverend Al Sharpton.
Yes,
Rachel was working with Terry Williams at the time. When I was with Angelo Ellaby, Rachel. So we come from that school.
Right.
You know what I mean? From that school. So shout out to Rachel Nordlinger. Shout out to, again, Sarita, Chastity. You know, these are publicists that I know that are doing their thing. And yeah, they know, like, people know. They know. If you know, you know. You know, because I pretty much at every opportunity, and thank you for giving me this platform, speak about it. You know, let people know my background and like, you know, when I tell people, yeah, man, I used to mail out press kits.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to have 300 press kits. You know, my daughter Molly used to help me. My daughter Molly, Paya, and Eli used to help me, you know, assemble press kits and mail them out to, you know, to the press for my clients. You know, that's from the days. Now you don't have to do that anymore. Right. Now it's, you know, point and click and everything. But I come from that school, you know, and it taught me a lot. It taught me humility. It taught me follow through. It taught me follow through. You can't just send out a press kit without following up with a phone call. Did you get it? Did you get the press kit that I sent you? Okay, can you give me a story on, you know, can I get a write-up? Can I get my artist booked on, you know, BET Rap City? You know? And thank you. I want to say thank you again to people that believed in me and gave me opportunities. You know, I mentioned Veronica Rosario, who booked me when she was on Fox 5 Good Day New York, like 3 times on Fox 5 Good Day New York. I was on Fox 5. And from Fox 5, she went to Channel 11. I take it back to BET Rap City when my man D Brad hooked me up to DJ, and Busta Rhymes was the host. That was an opportunity that to this day I could just never forget that. You know what I'm saying? Because that week Tigger was gone, and Busta Rhymes was the special guest host on BET Rap City, and they were booking a whole bunch of DJs that week, and I was one of the DJs. And it was definitely something that I'll never forget, because Busta, he's Jamaican, I'm Haitian, so we instantly connected. You know, it was a West Indian vibe. You know what I mean? It was the other DJs. You know, they got on, they did their thing, because we taped like 5 DJs that day. But when I got on and I had my Haitian flag around my arm and I had my mix CDs in the front, Busta Rhymes was like, "Oh, you're from Haiti?" You know, I was like, "Yo, I'm from Haiti." It was like automatic. So it made that taping just that much more fly.
Right.
And it was one of the best best things of my career.
Right.
You know, to be able to say that I DJ'd on BET Rap City, and Busta Rhymes was the special guest host.
That's crazy.
Up until recently, I had the wonderful opportunity of DJing for the Capital Jazz Super Cruise, January 2020, right before the pandemic. Right before the pandemic, I'm on the Capital Jazz Super Cruise.
Was that the cruise that my parents were on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I get January 2020.
I
right?
get a call from my father. My father passed away in August of 21, but I get a call from him in January. He's like, "Yeah, I'm on this cruise with your boy." And I said, "Who?" And I think did he hand you the phone? Did they hand you the phone?
I think he did. Yeah.
And I was just like, just like taking it back. My parents love that because they love to represent their son, right? So they love it when they could be like, "Oh, you know my son?
Yeah.
So that was big, bro. That was big. That was big for them. It was big for me. And then they sent me a picture. You took a picture with them. They sent me the picture. I posted the picture. That was
huge because it was my first cruise, first of all.
Right.
That was my first cruise ever. Like I was always like, cruise, me and my lady, shout out to Rabia. And we're like, oh, I don't know, man. We're gonna be on a boat for how long?
Yeah, yeah.
But I opened, this was life changing. I opened for Fantasia. I opened for SWV. I opened for Morris Day and the Time. I opened for Swing Out Sister. I DJ'd for Kid and Play. Their DJ did not make the boat because there was a storm, and the boat was supposed to go to Antigua to pick up Salt and Pepper and Kid and Play. I'm sorry, not Kid and Play. Kid and Play's DJ. And Salt and Pepper didn't make the boat because they had the boat had to be rerouted. So I ended up having to fill in for Kid and Play. So that was a moment for me. That was like getting a call in the cabin from Play. Like, I need to know if you can DJ for us. I was like, what? Absolutely.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
As a fan of Kid and Play, that was just an amazing moment for me.
Right.
And so thank you, Capital Jazz Super Cruise, for that amazing, like I said, I'm nothing without the support that I get from people that believe in me and my skill set. You know, I appreciate it so much. I never take it for granted.
Now that was big.
You know, and up until recently, I did the Capital Jazz Super Cruise again, January 2023. I came back again, you know, and I did a whole series of shows and opening sets. And then and also another highlight of my career was DJing for the Smithsonian, the African American Museum.
Did that as well.
My God. To say that I DJ'd in a National Mall, and I mean, I'll just never forget that. It was me, Natasha Diggs, and I opened for Spinderella. I came on right before Spinderella. Was just another highlight of my life. You know, just the DJ and to see the monument like right in front of me and the sea of people.
Yeah, that's
it was a moment, brother.
That's a different vibe.
You know, where King was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's different.
It was.
Yeah, that's different.
So I'm extremely grateful for that experience as well.
Last question, because honestly, we could talk for hours.
No doubt.
And we may have to like at some point circle back and actually, you know, get into some other things because I know there's so much that we didn't touch on. But, you know, me speaking about my parents, I know you did the documentary about your father.
Yes.
I want to know, were your parents proud of you?
Okay. Before my father passed away, I ran into my father because my father had a medallion. My father died in 2017, and I ran into my father in Brooklyn. And my father, he was a hard West Indian man, you know, but I remember after he passed away, I saw him in Brooklyn, and he got to tell me that he was so happy to see me and he was proud of me back then. And then when he passed, I went to his, to his home, and I went through his things, and I saw a whole bunch of pictures and clippings.
He was saving them.
He was saving them, of me and my kids. And so he, in his own way, he cherished, what I did, and that made me happy to know that he knew. My mom, I'm gonna tell you, one of the highlights, I will say this. My mom, Jeannie Saint Basile, from La Vallée de Jacmel, Haiti, is the reason why I am who I am today. She allowed me to DJ in the house and play music super loud, and never complain. Never complain. Shout out to my mom, who allowed me to just play music super loud. And as a result of that, she was with me when I got honored in 2019, where the Haitian Roundtable honored me as one of the 30 Haitian American change makers of the United States, the 1804 list. I brought my mom as a date. And for my mom to see me get up there and be honored meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. I wanted my mom to see that. So my mom is my champion. She's my number one champion, and I owe a lot to her. Shout out to all my family. Shout out to my children, Elijah, my daughter Paya, my son, my youngest son, Ngozi, Mazi Smazi, my baby girl Mazi, and my grandchildren, Noah, Zakai, and my newest granddaughter, Nico Star. But my kids, they keep me going. You know what I'm saying? My kids keep me going. You already know the deal. The kids, like my son. I'm gonna show you the video that I just took literally today. He comes into my studio all the time, and he always wants to be a part of what I'm doing. And Molly's DJing now. My son is producing. My daughter sings. So my kids are into music. You know what I'm saying?
Because they grew up in it.
They grew up around it.
Like you said, they were slapping stamps on press kits as kids.
Right. And Paya can sing. Paya can sing. My daughter just did a track for Talib Kweli's daughter. You know what I'm saying? So my son just did a track for Talib Kweli's daughter. So they're just out there. My daughter's doing photography, and she's DJing in LA. You know what I mean? So I'm just proud of my kids.
That's the result of fatherhood and being present.
Right.
Like my 5-year-old, I just emceed the Assembly Member Stephanie Zinnerman State of the District.
I saw that.
My son is on stage the whole time. He doesn't want to leave me. Right. And it makes me feel good because I know that he's soaking up that shit.
Oh yeah.
Right. And he will, maybe it's not exactly what daddy does, but he's going to have that skill set.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's there. He's taking it in.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised.
He's
Without just hand him the mic.
Right. And just let him
rock. I got to say this, man. One of the most, I got to say this to you on camera. One of the most craziest moments for me was the bike day that we just did like a week or two ago, when we're doing karaoke and you grab the mic and you doing what was the song you did? The Jay-Z
Dirt Off My Shoulders.
Dirt Off My Shoulders.
Dirt Off My Shoulders.
Without even looking at the words. Like you just jumped on.
Yeah.
I was like, Marlon.
Yeah.
Yo, Deuce.
Yeah.
You killed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's my thing.
And I sent you the video. You know you got it, right?
Karaoke's my thing. But also it's this thing like I'm really a rapper. You know what I mean? Like I still.
So where's the album, man?
You know what I mean? I still like look, I'm in a fantasy football league. I be writing diss records and like putting them in the chat. Like I'm still that guy.
Right.
So karaoke gives me an opportunity to kind of like mash the two together, right? Because I know the words.
Yeah.
Right. And so
obviously,
I'm gonna perform them. You know what I'm saying? So that's just it's a thing.
Dope.
It's a thing. And we talk about and over again in this series we talk about our generation wanting to just be in the culture.
Yes.
And being willing to learn and to do and to be whatever it takes.
I thank God for hip-hop.
To be in the culture. Me too.
I thank God for hip-hop. Hip-hop saved my life. It kept me out of trouble. And it really gave me an opportunity to, to perform, to feed my family, to feed my family. Like the art of turntablism, the art of DJing, is allowing me to feed my family. you know, and I don't take that for granted. I'm grateful for it every single chance I get. And thank you to all the venues that I partner. And I got to say this before we get out of here. I like to say that one of the beautiful things that I like to say about what I do as a DJ and as a craft is to be able to support Black-owned businesses. If you notice, a lot of the residencies that I have are Black-owned. And I'm grateful to be able to do that. Shout out to Rebel. Shout out to, you know, all the DJs, all the you know, spots that I'm at Soko Lounge. You know what I mean? I could go on and on and on. You know what I'm saying? And I like to say that I like to do that because it's a way for me to really tap in to the community and to be able to have the patrons support that business. You know, and I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? I get a lot of requests for gigs, weddings, special events, corporate events. I've done a lot. But to be able to really give back to my Black-owned businesses is what I find, you know, it gives me joy, you know, to be able to drive patrons to those businesses so that they can benefit. Right. You know what I'm saying? So
this has been great. Jay, what we got?
Yo, it's a lot of Harry's a great storyteller.
Oh,
Marlon's like tall buckshot. Rapping his own mind. Somebody put an eye roll emoji. That might have been me.
Salute to Jay. Salute to Malik.
Yeah, Malik.
Kaisha.
Yeah, Kaisha. She's doing her thing out in the world, man. But
thank you for having me, man.
Showing love. I'm sure Kai was watching. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna get a phone call after this. Like, yo, y'all went way long, but it was worth it though because you know you kind of was able to kind of connect the dots and really show again. This shit is about the culture, right? So the culture is not just the art form. Yeah. The culture is the back of the house.
That's right.
Right. The culture is the journey. Right. So even when you were working at the bank and you were selling pages were hip hop.
Yo,
you wasn't cool if you ain't have a pager. Right. So you was creating and curating cool for motherfuckers.
Yes.
By just being that guy.
Yo, the pager, trust me, man. The alphanumerics.
Yes.
At the time. That was the beginning of the lettering. Like,
and so
where you going to be? Where you going to be at? You know what I mean?
So we're like creating this like mind map and it's like, you know, it's blank and then you put like music and fashion and, you know, all of the things, back of the house services, publicity and makeup artists and campaign writer and all these things is like the mosaic of hip hop. Yeah. And that's what we're doing here. And so your story
I love what you're doing here too with the clothing because Walker Wear, true story. That's how I know April Walker. Because when I was doing photo shoots for my clients, I would reach out to April, and April would send me gear. I had Walker Wear gear for my clients. Even Woo Wear with Cinnamon Jones.
That's the sister,
You know, Power and Cinnamon Jones would send me gear so that I could dress up my clients for photo shoots. So shout out to April Walker.
Big talk.
You know what I mean?
Family. That's the family.
That's the fam. I see it up here. Shout out to Hip Hop Closet, man. I already got t-shirts and a hoodie right here. I'm walking out. Nice. I already got my money.
Harry, I love you.
Support.
We've done our thing.
Hip Hop Closet. Make sure you support that.
We've been in the trenches together. We've done it. You know, we've curated Central Brooklyn together, and we're going to continue to do more shit. I love you. I enjoyed our conversation. I hope people got something from it. I'm about to write a diss record for Jason as soon as I'm done with this shit. I'm about to get at that nigga. I'm about to get at him and shit. Come on out so they can see you, bro.
Thank you to everybody tuned in.
You know how we do. 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 So
that's Club Quarantine. Yeah. Nice.
We'll be back. We'll be back next Tuesday with another legend for the game. You know what I'm saying? Not until February 31st. And we're gonna do our thing, continue to be blessed, continue to do this and ride this wave because it's amazing. We love you. See you next week.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace.